From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on your MTN statewide news this Wednesday. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, a new record today, and not a good one. 348 new confirmed COVID-19 cases across Montana, along with 4 deaths. The latest victims to die from COVID-related illness: a Glacier County woman in her 70s, a Yellowstone County man in his 90s, a Flathead County resident, and the Bighorn County man in his 70s that we told you about last night. Now, the official total death count now stands at 182. This brings the total deaths in Yellowstone County to 68, Bighorn County with 23, Flathead to 19, and Glacier County is now up to 2. Well, shortly after the numbers were released, Governor Steve Bullock addressed the state today. In fact, he's still answering questions on all MTN Facebook sites. The governor invited several medical professionals from around the state to share their experience. Dr. Mark Williams from Bozeman Health said it's time for Montanans to double up their COVID preventive efforts for families and healthcare workers. Williams said some healthcare workers feel exhausted by people who don't take the virus seriously. Also, on this day of a record number of rising cases in Montana, I talk with Dr. Deborah Birx, the coordinator of the White House Coronavirus Task Force. She weighs in on a number of concerns and issues surrounding coronavirus in Montana. We'll hear from her tonight on your MTN station. Well, COVID-19 now impacting Montana students at a growing rate. Butte Central will remain temporarily closed due to the virus after some students were put in quarantine earlier this week. However, in-person classes are expected to start back up on Monday. Butte Central Catholic Schools President Don Peoples says the football team is expected to play Friday's home game against Libby since the quarantine ends Thursday evening. In Jordan, Montana, a teacher tested positive for COVID-19, and now the school is shutting down in-person classes for the next 2 weeks. School leaders say many students and staff had contact with the teacher during the exposure period. Jordan has also postponed all sporting events until at least October 10th. Other small schools also across the state are shutting their doors. The schools in Harlem, Conrad, and Box Elder also forced to close due to recent COVID cases. And Lewis and Clark County reported its first cases in schools this week and now reports more COVID-19 cases in the county detention center. Sheriff Leo Dutton says there are 4 inmates who have tested positive in 2 residential pods. All the inmates in those pods are being quarantined through the end of next week. In addition, 7 detention center employees have tested positive out of about 50 who have been checked. It's time now to check in on the weather scene with meteorologist Ed McIntosh. Good afternoon, Ed.
Good afternoon, Jeanelle. It was really pretty dry for the month of September, and now as we start getting into October, it doesn't look like there's going to be any break in the warm and dry conditions. As we look across the western portion of the country, in fact, the entire nation, we're trending towards warmer than average temperatures as we start getting into the second week of October. So through the middle of October, it looks like warm conditions are going to continue to be the story, and drier than average across the eastern 2/3 of the country. Areas of the Pacific Northwest and extending a bit into western Montana and Idaho will continue to see perhaps a little wetter weather. We'll break down what that means for us in the short term and the long term in just a few minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Ed. Well, the 2 presidential candidates are hitting the campaign trail today, one day after the first messy presidential debate. Natalie Brand reports from the White House.
The first presidential debate was marked by chaos, personal insults, and interruptions, more than 70 of them.
Everybody knows he's a liar.
But
I just want to make sure.
The 2 candidates sparred over health care.
He wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act.
What is the Trump health care plan?
Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him. I'm cutting drug prices.
They also clashed over the economy and the coronavirus.
People want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down.
You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis.
President Trump denied a New York Times report that he paid only $750 in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017.
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax.
Show us your tax returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it.
One of the most striking moments of the debate was President Trump's response when asked if he would condemn white supremacy groups.
Who would you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right-wing militias.
stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what, somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left.
Members of the far-right self-described Western chauvinist group were listening. They quickly added Mr. Trump's words to their logo.
He is refusing to condemn white supremacy. Why is that so hard for the president of the United States?
Well, I think he has. I mean, I've been in press conferences when he has. I mean, I've seen him say it repeatedly. So, he's condemned many white supremacist groups.
President Trump returns to the campaign trail tonight with a rally in Minnesota. Democratic nominee Joe Biden has begun a train tour of Ohio and Pennsylvania, two critical battleground states. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
And a CBS News poll found 69% of respondents found last night's matchup annoying. Just 17% say they found it informative. Well, the Montana Supreme Court weighs in on two major election lawsuits setting some rules for November 3rd. The High Court now says in order for mail ballots to be counted, they must be returned to the county election offices by 8 o'clock the night of the election. Now, that ruling overrules a lower court order last week that said mail ballots only needed to be postmarked by Election Day. And the Supreme Court upheld an order canceling a 2018 law that restricted who is able to turn in absentee ballots cast by other people. That ruling is a victory for Native American tribes and the state Democrat Party, who say the law unfairly blocked efforts to increase voting on reservations. Well, one of the issues on the ballot here in Montana is recreational marijuana legalization. Economists at the University of Montana say if voters pass that measure, the state could generate an additional $52 million per year in tax revenue. The report also suggests tourism would see a major boost with up to $17 million in additional visitors, 17 million additional visitors a year. Now, according to UM, Montana is a state with a higher fraction of adults who say they use marijuana. Still, the study's authors say these numbers are just projections.
It's hard to know exactly how those things are going to take off in a different state like Montana. But I think if you were to look at states that we could compare ourselves to, Washington and Colorado are not perfect, but they're close. They're mountain communities. They have a lot of the same attractions. The demographics are not all that different.
Now, the report did not look at the social costs of legal marijuana, and the authors did not endorse the initiatives. Up next on your new news, fall is here, and that means pumpkin patch time. Find out the recipe of success in order for these gourds to grow. But first, Ed McIntosh is in next with your statewide weather forecast.